Hi guys, I am now continuing in my Batman Dark Knight trilogy series leading up to Batman v Superman. I reviewed Batman Begins last week, I think, and now it's time for The Dark Knight, which many people regard as the best comic book movie ever made. The Dark Knight stars Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Michael Caine, Aaron Eckhart. Whoever plays Rachel in this movie, I should probably find that out. Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman. This one basically takes place after Batman Begins. Batman is in his prime, and the Joker has been causing havoc all over Gotham City. He's been sending creepy messages on TV. He's been doing really creepy things like robbing banks and killing people, and this entire movie is about that. While also there's a new district attorney at Gotham, played by Aaron Eckhart, called Harvey Dent. He's been doing so much good for the city that people are arguing that he might be doing even more good than Batman is. So yeah, The Dark Knight is regarded by most people as the best comic book movie ever made, and I completely agree, just like everybody else. The Dark Knight is my absolute favorite comic book movie ever. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Everything about this movie was just utter perfection. The way Christopher Nolan directed it, the characters, the acting, it's all just so perfect, and Dark Knight it's kind of a classic now. Dark Knight is kind of a classic now. Everybody knows about this movie, everyone praises it, it's regarded as one of the best movies ever made, and it truly is. This movie is more dark, it's more emotional, it's more action-packed. It's just everything from this movie improved over Batman Begins. Literally everything about this movie is utter perfection, from the way it begins with the clown scene, with them robbing the bank, where there's a bunch of people with clown masks on and they're robbing this bank. The way it's directed and the way it's done, it's just so suspenseful. These clowns trying to rob this bank and killing each other in the process, and then one of them takes off the clown mask and is revealed as Heath Ledger's Joker. And he puts a bomb in this dude's mouth and drives away with a bus and makes the bomb go off. And yeah, when I was little and I first saw Batman Begins, I was like, oh, that was a really good movie. That was really good. And then with Dark Knight, right when the movie began, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the creepiest thing I've seen ever. And right when he's first revealed, he takes off his mask and he's like, I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. And what is there to say about Heath Ledger's Joker that nobody said before? This guy is brilliant. Everybody praises him. Everybody loves Heath Ledger's Joker, even though before this movie came out, a lot of people thought he was gonna suck. But he didn't. He blew everyone's minds. Heath Ledger's Joker is regarded as one of the best performances ever given by an actor, and I agree. It is one of the best performances ever given by an actor. He's so good. He's funny. He's extremely terrifying. He freaked me out as a kid. He legitimately scared me as a kid. I honestly don't really know what else to say about the Joker. He is one of the best villains of all time, if not the best. He might actually be my favorite villain of all time. And this movie must have taken place right after Batman Begins, because there's like a bunch of criminals in a garage. There's the Scarecrow is in there, and he hasn't even gotten arrested yet since the first movie. And there's impersonators of Batman there, people with Batman suits pretending to be Batman, except they have guns. And Batman beats up all the criminals, arrests them, and he also ties up the Batman impersonators. It's such good stuff. And I love this scene because it's just like, now that they've gotten the origin story out of the way, they can just do whatever they want with Batman. They can just have some fun. And his intro in this movie, it's really showing Batman in his prime, and it's just so good. And I've already gushed about Christian Bale enough, but he's so good. He's even better in this movie than he was in Batman Begins. He is the absolute perfect Batman, even though the guy has publicly said he was disappointed by his performance as Batman, but I don't agree. Christian Bale is the best Batman we've gotten so far. And I love the intro to Aaron Eckhart's character, Harvey Dent. If you're a comic nerd, you know that this guy's gonna end up being Two-Face by the end of the movie, because his name is Harvey Dent, and yes, he does. But I didn't know that as a kid. I just thought he was some likable guy who had like the coin flipping thing that's kind of an homage to Two-Face. Because I wasn't smart at all, I was just an idiot, and I did not know that he turned out to be Two-Face at the end of the movie. But Aaron Eckhart, he's so good. He's so likable. I mean, he's just so good in this movie. And I love his intro when he's in the court scene. Somebody points a gun at him and he just like grabs it, punches him in the face. It's like, yeah! Harvey Dent. And Katie Holmes as Rachel was replaced with Maggie Gyllenhaal. And honestly, Katie Holmes was really good in the first movie in my opinion, but I think Maggie Gyllenhaal is better. I don't know, I just like Maggie Gyllenhaal better. Maybe because she's hotter? Maybe? Maybe. That might be it, actually. And in this movie, she sort of moved on from Bruce Wayne and gone to Harvey Dent, and they're sort of in a relationship in the movie, and their romance, it's so good. You like seeing these people together. Especially with Harvey Dent's conversation about who he wants to spend the rest of his life with, and decisions you have to make in life. Even though you kind of like her with Bruce Wayne in the first movie, you don't mind her being with Harvey Dent because Harvey Dent is so likable and they're such a good couple. And their romance in the movie is really good and believable. And also, I have to mention the pencil scene with the Joker. He's literally just walking into some room where Maroni, this crime boss guy, is just like talking to his criminals and stuff, and he just grabs this guy, takes the pencil, want to see a magic trick, and smashes his head into the pencil so that the eye goes into the pencil and throws him backwards. That's another scene in this movie where I was just like, oh my gosh, as a kid. I was mind blown. Honestly, most of this review is probably just gonna be me gushing about Heath Ledger because he's so good! And yet another great scene with the Joker is when he has the camera and he's being broadcast on the news. People will die. Starting tonight. I'm in my world. I apologize for that. and the Joker has so many, countless great lines. Like the line where he's intimidating Rachel and he's just like, oh, you look nervous. Is it the scars? Wanna know how I got them? And Joker has been killing so many people and threatening throughout the entire city that if Batman doesn't go away, he's gonna keep killing these people. So Batman needs to turn himself in, and Harvey Dent ends up turning himself in instead of Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne didn't get a chance to. And it's so good. Harvey Dent is such a great character. He's a hero, and he's very likable and all that. And like I mentioned earlier, with Batman's intro in this movie, with the garage scene, the action is so good. Especially the car chase where Batman's in the Batmobile and Joker is in that truck. It's one of my favorite action scenes ever. I love that whole scene. Especially at the end of that scene where Batman's on the Batpod after his Batmobile literally gets blown up. He's just like on this Batpod and Joker's on the other side of the street and he's just like, hit me! Hit me! Hit me! I want you to do it! I want you to do it! Hit me! And then shortly after that is the interrogation scene. Now this is my favorite scene in the entire movie and one of my favorite scenes from any movie. It's so brilliant. They're supposed to be getting information out of the Joker, but the Joker just knows every single button to push on Batman. Even though Batman is literally slamming his head on like concrete walls, the Joker is still on top of his game and he's stalling because he put a bomb in this warehouse that has Harvey Dent and Rachel in the same building. And he's stalling as much as he can. The Joker knows exactly how to mess with Batman and get into his head, and it's perfect. One of the best movie scenes ever. And then eventually Batman ends up only being able to save one of Harvey Dent and Rachel, and he ends up saving Harvey Dent. But Harvey Dent gets his face burned, half of it off, and when I was like younger, I was just like, oh, he's Two-Face. Oh! But Rachel does end up dying, and it's so heartbreaking because Harvey Dent is such a likable character, and he's going through so much pain with half of his face burned off, and he's just devastated about Rachel's death, and it's so sad. And Rachel actually is a good female lead in these movies. She's actually a really good character, so you get really sad when her character gets killed off. And then Aaron Eckhart's performance completely switches from a good, likable character to a guy that's just angry and depressed with his life. Someone who he's just insane. He wants to kill everybody. He kills the crime boss Maroni. He's killing people all over the place. And he literally goes from a likable character to someone you feel bad for. Someone who's basically just a psychopath now. And people complain that Two-Face isn't in the movie a whole lot, like actually as Two-Face, but I think they did it perfectly. Because you feel so bad for this guy because he lost his woman who was everything to him, and you just feel so bad for the villain. That's why he's so great. You love him at the same time as you're hating him. And one of my favorite scenes with the Joker in this movie is when the Joker activates this bomb and then like and blows up this hospital. And this movie consisted of practical effects, and the bomb actually stopped working for a second. So Heath Ledger literally didn't want them to stop the shot, and he literally just started improvising with that mistake, and the bombs just stopped going, and he just like did this little thing where he's just like. And I love that. Heath Ledger's just little tidbits to the performance. They're just so good and funny and awesome. And Batman's final battle with Joker is so good. It's so satisfying and it's just great. The action in this movie is it's so good. And the climax of this movie is basically just Harvey Dent threatening Commissioner Gordon's family, played brilliantly by Gary Oldman, and he like threatens their family with a gun. And this is such a good scene because you really hate Harvey Dent right now, but you also feel bad for him because he lost half of his face and his loved one. So it's really sad stuff, and Gary Oldman's performance on the scene is so brilliant. The guy is crying, the guy he's just afraid, he's panicking that his family is gonna die, and this is some of the best acting I've ever seen from Gary Oldman on this scene. And then Batman kills Harvey Dent and stuff, and then he has to stop being Batman since everyone kind of hates Batman now. And then Batman got framed for all the murders, and he's done being Batman, and I love Gary Oldman's speech at the end of this movie, where he's like, he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. A silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. And it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. And that's how the movie ends. Batman is just not being Batman anymore. He's done. And it's an incredibly sad ending, and it leaves on a cliffhanger. Very great cliffhanger. So guys, Dark Knight is one of the best movies ever made. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 5 movies ever. Every single scene of this movie is utter perfection. It blows your mind. And this movie has such a profound effect on me when I was younger. I was blown away by this movie, and I still am today watching it. I was like, how did they do this? How did they pull this thing off? So guys, Dark Knight obviously, without a doubt, gets an A+. What else would I give it? There's nothing. And I'm reviewing Dark Knight Rises as soon as I can. Yay. It's all good. Bye-bye.